Hello and welcome to the Link Sports Show. I'm Kieran Hymas and joining me in the studio tonight is Link Sport reporter Liam Gibbs. Let's start the evening with Lincoln City, and over 7,000 fans saw the Imps reach the third round of the FA Cup with a 3-2 win over Oldham Athletic on Monday. Around double the usual numbers of supporters piled through the turnstiles to see Lincoln take on their League One opposition live in front of the TV cameras. And on a chilly Monday night, they were warmed up by a fine Imps display that saw them overcome the 26 league places separating the sides. Lincoln will travel to Ipswich Town in the next round in January, and manager Danny Cowley was delighted with every aspect of the night.
Fantastic night, you know, to get on the right side of the result, brilliant. But for us to have over 7,000 people, I'm right in saying that, unbelievable for this football club. You know, we're a non-league club now, and for us to carry 7,000 supporters is beyond, I think, all of our wildest expectations. And I think credit to the players because they've got people in the city believing again. And you know, hopefully the people that come tonight, the extra 3,000, enjoyed that, and hopefully they come again.
So we were both there Monday night. Fantastic performance, not just by the team, but also by the fans, bringing over 7,000 people, really lighting up Sincil Bank. But you wouldn't have thought that Oldham were the League One side in that tie.
You wouldn't know, and it was a great night, as you said. First of all, on the pitch, with the performance from Danny Cowley's men, I thought they were the better side for most of the first 70 minutes until Oldham got one back. They scored those two quick-fire goals in the first half, in the middle of the first half. And that really hit Oldham. I think they were a bit shell-shocked, didn't really know what to make of that. They'd have come out after half-time, really up for it, Oldham, but then went 3-0 down, just 90 seconds into the second half. That would have really hit them as a sucker punch. And from then on, there was no way back. Even though they did have those, so they did score those two goals in quick succession, but after that, they never really had any chances, and I think it was comfortable in the end. A well-marshalled back line as well, and Paul Farman claiming assured.
Although the team might have been comfortable, I'm sure the fans were when that second goal went in. I myself surely wasn't. But Matt Reid really impressed me. Oldham didn't seem to know how to handle him because although he didn't get himself a goal, he was instrumental in all of the goals that were scored, putting it down on his head, chesting it down. Even the passes that he was playing, a midfielder would be proud of. Yeah,
he was a real threat, wasn't he? His strength, obviously, is always going to be a threat for all centre-halves. I think, particularly for the first goal, with the ball floated in from the left, he showed really good strength to hold off his man, a good header in behind, and Theo Robinson can just sneak in between keeper and back four to just poke home. One thing we noticed as well on the night was that clearly I think the Cowleys had pinpointed Ollie Banks as a threat for Oldham, and they just held Matt Reid back slightly, and Reid sat on Ollie Banks a little bit and didn't allow him to dictate the game, and I think that was a very clever move by the Cowleys.
Definitely, very clever. The only problem that they are faced with now is that the game this weekend against Shaw Lane has been postponed because there's apparently an FA investigation into their previous match against Nantwich. Do you think that that's going to have a big effect on them having a weekend without a game?
Well, you can look at it either way, can't you? You can see it as an opportunity to recharge the batteries after what was an intense last week. It gives them a weekend off just to chill out a little bit and look ahead to Tranmere, which is of course another big game between the top two. Or you can see it as, would they prefer to keep the momentum going from a win, good form at the minute, would they want to play again just so that they keep ticking over and keep that momentum going into Tranmere? You can look at it either way. I suspect if you ask the Cowleys, they'll probably say, yeah, we'd welcome the weekend off.
But the thing is, Tranmere is a big game to go into, the top of the National League right now. Surely you'd want to be going in the momentum that they've got. They've just come out of beating a League One side. That's got a lot of confidence coming with it. Are they at danger of losing a bit of focus?
Not focus, but possibly a little bit of momentum gained from that. Obviously, with the 7,000 being there as well, that would have given them a huge amount of confidence going into it. I think they probably would like to have played, but if you ask the Cowleys about it, I don't think they'd mind the weekend off.
And we'll just have to see how it goes when it is announced what date that game's going to be. But moving on to Lincoln United now, and the Whites travel to AFC Rushden and Diamonds this week, looking to continue their rise up the league table. The Whites widened the gap between themselves and the relegation zone with 2 recent wins, and they've still played the fewest games of anyone in the league. We caught up with manager Sam Wilkinson earlier to catch his thoughts on this weekend's tie.
I think that, well, I do know that they've got 3 or 4 players back from injury who didn't play against us. So, and I think they brought 3 players in last week. So I would say the starting 11 will be quite a lot of difference in it, to be honest. So we're still expecting a tough game, and they've maybe learnt a little bit from us, and we know what their strengths and weaknesses are. So it won't be too different, I wouldn't have thought, to the first game when we played there. You know, they're on their home patch, so they'll probably think they're maybe slightly favourites. They're doing better than us in the league. So, from their point of view, they'll probably think they've got the upper hand. We're just going to look to take each game at a time, and starting with Saturday, we're looking to go and take the game to them and have a go at their place, rather than look to sit off and try to sit and wait for them to come on to us. We're going to look to attack.
And obviously, they have already played AFC Rushden and Dons before in the Cup. They did win 2-0, so surely that's got to take a bit of confidence into their upcoming game.
Yeah, they know each other well, Lincoln and Rushden. Obviously, they played each other, as you mentioned, in the FA Trophy. 3-3 in the initial tie down at the Dog and Duck in AFC Rushden's ground. Came back up here on the Tuesday night and Lincoln won 2-0. That was a fairly comfortable victory for them. They were 2-0 up early on. They bossed the game. Rushden, I was a little bit disappointed by. They didn't really offer much that night. But as Sam Wilkinson said, they've brought in a few new players. They've got a few back from injury. They'll offer a tough test, but Lincoln in good form, and they'll want to keep climbing the table.
And as much as he says it's not exactly going to be, he doesn't think that the fact that they've brought new players in is going to be too much of an obstruction, but surely he's got to be a bit wary of who they have brought in and the fact that they can't exactly prepare exactly the same as they did last time.
Well, no, it's always the way, isn't it? You bring new players in, and there's always going to be a slight unknown quantity about a side, how they'll fit into the particular system they play. And that's something that you just got to find out on the day, I suppose. He may have had them watched, but unless he has, then he's just going to find out on the day, and they'll have to adapt.
But 5 games unbeaten for the Whites in the league, so obviously a lot of confidence comes with that.
Yeah, they've been playing well recently, haven't they? I mean, we were discussing earlier. If you take out that 1 week where they lost 3 times in the week, lost to Spennymoor, to Shore Lane and to Northwich, but if you take that week haven't lost 1 game since August. And that was the other week against Kidderminster, who are a side 2 levels above. So actually, for large spells of this season, the Whites have actually been playing really well. They've got a lot of confidence going in that dressing room. And I'm sure they'll be confident of making it up to mid-table fairly soon.
It was definitely easy to hit the panic button as soon as we saw those quick succession defeats, and obviously they're quite high scoring as well, but you do forget that they're a couple of leagues higher, and it was a bit of a hit the panic button. It wasn't needed at the time, really.
It wasn't, no. I think it was the manner of the goals conceded that was as concerning as anything else. You look at the Spennymoor game, and there was a lot of individual errors, and the same at Northwich, and then losing to Shore Lane is no disgrace. They're top of the league. But I think, again, it was the scoreline, the fact that it was 5-2. Maybe it was just what Sam Wilkinson needed to say that actually, needed some defensive reassurances there. And he's brought them in with Jake Turner and James Blunden, and they look to have shored it up a little bit.
And how much of an impact do you think that they've had?
Yeah, they have. I mean, Sam Wilkinson said that Turner plays a little bit more of a higher line, and he likes that. It's the way he plays. Blunden slotted in alongside Michael Jacklins, looked good. I think, they've both had a really good impact on the side.
And the defence definitely has improved. You mentioned one name there, James Blunden, and he's in fact just signed a contract until the end of the season. And Wilkinson was full of praise for his centre-back.
Well, it's brilliant. It's brilliant for Lincoln United, for the squad, and for the lad himself. He's been brilliant from day one since he's come in, showing a great attitude. And he seems to have grown as well. Each game, you think it's a different type of challenge for him, and he comes through with flying colours. So it's a positive for everyone at the club, and it's a credit to him. He deserves it.
And it'd be great to see United extend that unbeaten league run this weekend. And in national news, England's cricketers started the 4th test against India in Mumbai this morning. After winning the toss and electing to bat, debutant Keaton Jennings' century was the backbone of England's day 1 efforts as they reached 288 for 5 at the close. So, Liam, Keaton Jennings. A great effort on his first debut to Test cricket.
Yeah, exactly. On debut, bound to be nervous. I think he was nervous early on. He got done by a quick bouncer, but survived that. And after that, I think he looked pretty assured. Some really nice stroke play, solid in defence, comfortable in attack, and obviously grew in confidence because he went to his 100 with a reverse sweep. So that is brave. Geoffrey Boycott was impressed. Heard earlier Boycott talking about that. He was very impressed with the way Jennings applied himself at the crease. And I think it's, a good effort from him, really good effort from him, and it sets the tone nicely. I think they'll be a little bit disappointed to end 5 wickets down, having been 200 and whatever they were for 2. To end 5 down for less than 300, I think will disappoint them slightly. But overall, a pretty decent day for them, I think.
And how do you see the top order shaping up this summer now that Haseeb Hameed is injured?
Well, it's going to be interesting how that one plays out, because Hameed impressed as well in the first couple of tests that he played before he got injured. Jennings has now come in, got 100 on his first day of Test cricket, so it's going to be really interesting to see how that pans out. I think what they could do is potentially, when Hameed is back in the summer, open with Cook and Hameed, maybe put Keaton Jennings at 3 and Joe Root at 4, which I think probably suits Root better, and I think Root will probably be happier with that. I think he feels more comfortable at number 4. But the problem with that, of course, is that Keaton Jennings is an opener and has always been an opener. And how would that affect him moving to number 3? You never know. Certainly something they could try out. I think they possibly will try that out. But we'll see in the summer.
Yeah, it's definitely one to keep an eye out. Now, Jake Ball playing an extra seamer, were you expecting that?
Yeah, I think so. They played Zafar Ansari in a couple of tests. They played Gareth Batty in the last one. It didn't really work. Neither of them were used particularly well. They didn't bowl particularly well. I thought Ansari was a little bit short. Batty just didn't seem to find his length either, which was surprising for someone of Batty's experience. But the Indians really went after him, knocked him off his stride, and I think it's not really a surprise that they've played the extra seamer. Jake Ball's come off. He bowled well for Nottinghamshire at the end of the season. Nottinghamshire fans will certainly feel that if they'd had Jake Ball for the entire season, they might not have been relegated. But yeah, you look at that. I think Ball coming in is probably a good move. We'll see how that pans out when India bat probably this evening.
Definitely. And unfortunately, that is all that we've got time for this week. So make sure you tune in next week for all of the latest local and national sports news. Until then, you can follow us on Twitter at @LinkSport. Let us know what you thought about the show. Goodbye.